You are live.
Okay, I'd like to open the Public Works Committee. Again, we also have online members of the Criminal Justice Committee as well, led by Supervisor Bramer. The purpose of the meeting is to discuss the question of e-bikes on the bike path. And I think with that, I think what I'd like to do, without objection, is to turn this over to Superintendent Hajos to bring us up to speed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So back in, I guess I want to say September, October, there was a discussion about having e-bikes on the bike path. I believe we thought at the time, and that going back to Public Works in the referral items, I believe that's where you see possibly doing a local law to allow e-bikes on the bike path. But I believe the only reason that local law would have been in place, and I'll have the county attorney correct me if I'm wrong, but it's because we had done it in the past for the snowmobiles because they at the time were considered motorized vehicles. New York State does not consider e-bikes as motorized vehicles. So I think with that being said, I'm not sure that we have to go through that local law of allowing e-bikes because they're bicycles. They're not considered motor vehicles on the bike path. Then I want to say in October, we had a joint meeting with public safety to discuss e-bikes on the bike path, and we discussed going through a pilot program. We had a gentleman from Whippoorwill Hotel up in Lake George who they rent e-bikes, who gave us a fantastic presentation on e-bikes. So with that being said, I wanted to bring it back through committee and ask for a resolution to approve a pilot program on the bike path. This pilot program would run from May 1st through November 1st of this year. It would include, and based on what I just put on the sheet, monitoring, safety, data collection, and then at the end, after November, we would come back with a report. As far as the monitoring goes, we would recruit and already have started discussions with the sheriff's office, as well as with the Adirondack Cycling Advocates, who used to be the Warren County Safe and Quality Biking Organization, and as well as businesses along the bike path. They would monitor, they would let us know if there's been any incidences. We, in turn, our staff is on the bike path all summer long, maintaining the bike path. So we would also be out there monitoring if there was any issues, concerns, or safety. One of the things that I've spoke with Ethan Gaddy and Sarah Frankenfeld over in planning about was to have signs at certain entrances to the bike path that would have a QR code, and that QR code anybody could scan, and they could provide us any information, whether it's similar to like my highway request program. They could put in request for the bike path, but it would also have a survey on there regarding e-bikes and e-scooters. What we're proposing is only allowing the type 1 and type 2 e-bikes on the bike path. Not the type 3. The type 3 can go up to 28 to 30 miles per hour. We would not allow those on the bike path. It would only be the type 1 and type 2. One of those is a pedal assist. The other one's a throttle assist, and they're no more than 20 miles per hour. And then again, at the end of this, we would create a report and make a recommendation whether or not we continue to allow e-bikes on the bike path, or we say no, that we're not going to allow them on the bike path. So that's all I have.
Okay, and just for clarity, perhaps Mr. Terwilliger, you concur with Kevin that the e-bikes would be considered bicycles, and therefore it does not require an amendment to the local law.
Yes, they're actually, even by state law, not considered like motorized vehicles that way. They would be considered more like a bicycle, the class 1 and 2 that
Okay.
way, yes.
Very good. All right, so we've validated it. And so with that, I think what I'd like to do is to open up discussion on the idea of a pilot program to the committee, and also to the committee members with criminal justice that are present. And maybe we'll start with.
Thank you. I think Amanda Allen said that we've got a quorum now, so I'll open up criminal justice and public safety on behalf of Supervisor Gerasi. Thank
Okay.
you.
Then we now have a quorum with criminal justice and public safety chaired by Supervisor Bramer. And so maybe we could do some kind of alternating here, but Mr. Dickinson, we could start with you.
I'd like to move that.
All right, there's a motion in Public Works to bring this to the floor for discussion. Do we have a second to that? We have a second by Mr. Bruno. All those in favor in Public Works of bringing this forward for discussion purposes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Claudia, if you'd like to.
Sure. Maybe Amanda, or you could help me with, is there a motion in the room to bring this forward in our committee?
Yes, Mr. Driscoll is making the motion and a second by,
I'll go ahead and second it.
all right, seconded by
Bring it to the floor.
Supervisor Bramer. Thank you, Claudia. All right.
Thank you.
If you want to call your motion.
Well, let me see if there's any discussion from our committee members.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment if I can, Claudia.
Sure, go ahead, Supervisor McDevitt.
Thank you very much. I'm going to support this proposal for a trial period. My biggest concern, I probably have more entrances to the bikeway in the city of Glens Falls than probably any other supervisor. I'm thinking specifically of one location, and that is the Ridge Street, Sanford Street, where the new Stewart's is. And you see periodically some significant people congestion, elderly citizens, children, grandchildren, and all that I would ask for is that we try to ensure monitoring that the speed of the bicycles are indeed, adhere to the criteria of the class 1 and class 2 bicycles. My concern is that, like anything else, there will be some people in this world that will abuse that policy. All of a sudden, we may have on the bike trail faster vehicles. Okay, so all that I would ask for is, in the interest of public safety and the constituents that use these trails heavily in my ward, that indeed be taken under consideration. I will support the trial period, and let's see how it works out.
Thank you, Supervisor McDevitt. Mr. Hajos, do you have any further information or assurances that you could provide to us about the safety? And one of my questions was, what signage do we have out there right now, if any, telling people they cannot use e-bikes?
We currently don't have any. Currently, we don't have any signage out there that someone can't use an e-bike. But we've never necessarily come out and said, yes, we'll allow it. I think when we had the last presentation with criminal justice and public safety, the combined meeting, we heard from a couple individuals that the majority of the people that are riding e-bikes nowadays are older individuals, individuals who wouldn't normally get on our bike path and ride a bike because they don't want to pedal up a hill. This prevents a lot more individuals to come out and use our bike path. And it's, they don't have to get off a bike and push it up a hill. The majority of the people that are buying these bikes, I would have to say, are not a younger generation. They are an older population. I wouldn't probably say the majority of people that are buying these are 40 and above. To assure, safety to the bike path, the best I can say with reaching out to the businesses, the Adirondack Cycling Advocates, our own staff will monitor it. I'm going to ask Sheriff LaFar if he has any issues that he has seen on the bike path with incidences with electric bikes, that he would definitely keep us filled in. I mean, I have more issues on the bike path currently that deal with, for lack of a better way of saying it, vagrants leaving needles out on the bike path than I do with bicyclists or such, but we're gonna monitor it. We're gonna recruit as many people as we can. And again, with that QR code that we'll put on signage, and that people can, tap into that QR code, go to a website, that we're going to develop to do a survey of what they feel. I mean, that'll be the public input as well. And they can also go in there and tell, we hope to put in there, if there's any request or any incidences they've had, they will be able to put that within that website.
Mhm. I think to the question, you can make the trail ready for the e-bikes by May 1, the pilot period.
That's correct. We can.
Okay.
Yep.
That includes signage and,
That is correct. We'll just have to determine the number of locations that we would put that signage on.
okay, very good. Mr. Dickinson?
Going back to Peter's concern and your offer for signage, Peter, I think a sign prior to that area that said that there was congestion ahead and let people know that most people will slow down. So hopefully that's what happens.
Well, that's why I'm going to support it, because I think we need a
Yeah.
trial to see, and I suspect it will work out. That would be my gut. So.
Good. Supervisor Stroud?
Yes, thank you. I'm entirely comfortable with class 1 electric bikes, which is a pedal assist. In other words, it isn't being assisted electronically, motorized, if you will, when you're pedaling. And they do have an upper limit of 20 miles per hour. Now, when you open it to class 2, you're talking about like a low-powered motorcycle. Are you opening the door to the e-scooters, to the e-boarders, other electric vehicles that don't require any pedal assist? And it is a multimodal path. So there's various users, joggers, walkers, going at different speeds and different paces and different densities. And so I'm a little bit concerned about going above class 1, but it is a trial period, but I do have concerns about going beyond class 1.
Mhm. Claudia, do you have anyone? Mr. Driscoll?
Thank you, Chairman. Am I on? Okay, I'm unmuted. Just a couple of comments. I hope that on the signage that there'll also be traditional language and not just the QR code for people who may not be having their smartphones with them. Also, this past spring or summer, I confronted an individual riding their bike along the feeder canal, and it was a homemade, I guess, e-bike. And I thought to ask him how you know what level it is, but maybe it's just an isolated incident. But is there any way to determine from the average person's eyes what level the bike is? I'm kind of ignorant about that type of stuff.
Mr. Hayes, if you want.
I'll go back to Supervisor Driscoll's first question. There will be signage. The signage won't just have the QR code.
Okay, thanks.
It'll actually give kind of I guess I want, lack of a better word, the description of what we're doing for the pilot program.
Great.
As far as the bikes, and I know that Supervisor Dickinson has his hands up, there's 750 watt bikes for the type 1 and type 2. I think as Supervisor Strauss said, yes, one's a pedal assist. The other one is a throttle assist. But again, it's not more than 750 watts, and they can't go more than 20 miles per hour unless somebody takes it apart, which people have done, and they can increase the speed of those bikes. But I guess, as I said earlier, with most people who are buying these bikes at the age of 40 plus, can't imagine that they're modifying these bikes too much.
Mr. Dickinson?
Thank you.
To John's point, my wife and I both have type 2. They'll go 20 miles an hour. One of the problems with them, John, is if you go 20 miles an hour, you're not going very far. They don't have a lot of go power. it really is to assist you, at least for us, going up that hill in front of the dinosaur park there. So yeah, and they don't go more than 20 unless you pedal faster, which you could do on any bike.
Right.
Most of the bikes, I have a couple friends that have made their own bikes. They buy the parts, they buy the same motor, they buy the same battery, and they put them on their bicycle and save themselves a few bucks, but they don't go any faster than 20.
Yeah. Supervisor McGowan, sorry.
Thank you. I have a family member who sells them, so I've been on them quite a bit, and I live off of Birdsville Road, which is a incline up for the bike trail, and I do see a lot of people walking it. A lot of times they'll say, "Hey, grab hold of the tailgate, and I'll pull you up," you know. But no, from the research and everything that I have found, these really are really an assist for anybody, and they're a great thing. My main concern would be really is to put out, along with the the QA signing and everything, is signage to remind the people the responsibilities of these bikes, or a speed limit. How do we enforce it? If we put it out there and we don't let people know that this is a monitoring program, or you might have that on the entrance sign, but do we have signs in the middle of the place where people may be able to sneak on? There's always going to be someone that pushes it. And I've been on that bike trail where, the 10 speed or 20 speeders, the ones I always call in the wind outfits, they're doing well over 20. And that's not the place. And they're road bikes, and those, they push it because of the smoothness and the safety, and they don't have to worry about the cars. But that's not fair for all the other people that are on there, and especially with the e-bikes. And you're absolutely right with the age, Kevin, is that it's the older people. And I'll be honest with you, I'm actually, I've been on them enough now that I'm actually thinking on getting a couple for my wife and I, so we can get back out there and bicycle. Because the main thing is Dennis said, it's those hills that scare me.
Yeah, Supervisor Straw. Mhm.
Yes, thank you. I almost think that we need additional rules to go along with this. If you're going to allow them on multimodal trails at 20 miles an hour, and you have families who are walking with kids who are errant in their predictable behaviors, that some rules such as when passing pedestrians walking or running, that you adopt, as other communities have, a 5-mile-per-hour passing rule. That when you go to pass pedestrians on the trail, that you must reduce your speed to 5 miles per hour.
Yeah, I just, maybe Kevin, you could, it might be helpful, excuse me, if you could speak to this approach is something that evolved from the research that Kevin did of other communities that went through the same process that we're going through relative to their hiking trails, and the idea of doing a pilot. Maybe Kevin, maybe you could speak to that a little bit about, that's why we're doing it as a pilot.
Yeah, we looked at, I'm going to say there's probably hundreds of them out there that are pilot studies that other areas have done. Colorado, Arizona, Michigan, Florida, a couple other ones. And to speak to Supervisor Child, there are other communities who do that. They don't just do it for e-bikes. They do it for any bike that passes somebody who's walking, other users of the bike path, that they should slow down. No different than having a no wake zone in a lake. A lot of the studies that were done, I can tell you, of all the ones that I've read, and I've probably read over 20 or 30 studies, no one has denied after the fact or come back with a report saying we don't recommend them. There was a couple out in Colorado where they recommended certain types because they were dirt trails. That was the difference, but they didn't necessarily not recommending having them. So most of the ones that are out there have gone through the pilot study, gathered enough information, and they have recommended going forward with e-bikes. I hope that, becomes the case here. I can do as much monitoring as I can using volunteers. Again, my staff is out on the bike path all summer long, maintaining that bike path. So they see a lot of what goes on out there. And then there's not an enforcement. I mean, there's no speed limit on the bike path right now. And as Supervisor McGowan said, I've been on the bike path where, as Supervisor McGowan said, they're in their wind suits and they blow by me going much faster than 20 miles per hour. And it scares the hell out of me when someone says, on your right. And, I mean, we can put signage out there saying, if you're going to pass on the left. Or I mean, we can do a lot of that. But again, it's going to come down to, the monitoring out on the bike path. And that's, again, recruiting like the Adirondack Cycling Advocates and others to let us know when they see that there's instances. That's what we have to be able to monitor. But I'm hoping moving forward that, it's no different than the normal bicyclists that are on the path now. And we've had, in the number of years that the bike path has been there, there's been incidences with normal bikes on there, someone traveling too fast, a child running out in front of a bike and a bicyclist has to veer off the path. It's happened. I'm not saying it's not going to, but again, we'll do the best we can and collect enough data and monitoring through the years or through this year or through this 6 months. And I'll come back to the committee with a recommendation of what we found.
I think that was important that we tried to do our homework in terms of what the experience has been relative to this matter across the country. The approach was one that had been utilized by other communities to evaluate the impacts of e-bikes, and it would appear that they all came away with feeling pretty positive about it. So that's always a good thing. It doesn't necessarily mean that will be our experience here. We'll have to wait and see on that. It just occurred to me sitting here that I suppose if I was on the trail and walking and a snowmobile came zipping by, right? I mean, and that's a motorized vehicle, right?
The
So-
DMV law, that is not a motorized vehicle either.
Okay.
But you would also hear that coming, and you
Yeah.
don't hear bike.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. But you see my point that, we have people and equipment already on the trail, at least in the winter. Mr. Hajos?
So I just want to drop back a little bit. So as of this resolution, I had miscellaneous resolution to allow e-bikes and e-scooters. I know we've been talking about bikes, but I haven't heard anybody mention anything about scooters. Are we going to allow the scooters as well as part of the pilot program?
What are a scooter? If you don't mind me asking.
It's again, it's human assist. They have to push along, but they also have, similar to the Type 2 bikes, a throttle on them. And I don't believe that they can exceed on those at 20-mile-per-hour limit. I actually think it's less. But again, it's just a scooter. It's two wheels, front and back. Some of them have four wheels, two on front, two on back, and you stand on it and ride it along.
You got the front with the handles.
Yes, up top.
Oh, it's got the handle. All right. Okay.
Kids store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, if we're trying to accommodate the elderly and the physically challenged by allowing e-bikes, it's quite the opposite with the scooters. That is a younger, untested crowd. And that's kind of what I was saying before. If you're allowing class 2 bikes, then how can you prohibit the e-scooters and the e-boarders from using the trail? And that's a younger crowd.
I can tell you with all the studies that I've seen on paved surfaces, those e-boards that you referred to where somebody would stand, I don't even know what they're called. My kids wanted one. I told them no. They're not allowed. That's most of the studies that were done. And then when they incorporated e-bikes and e-scooters on bike path, they didn't allow that type of device. And maybe that's what it comes down to at the end of this. We're not even allowing them now. We're saying e-scooters. It's a scooter. Maybe we have to spell out what exactly in that, on our website and what exactly the rules would be. It would be this type of bike and this scooter and that alone. Nothing more beyond that.
But the scooter would have no more power than the class 2.
No.
So the point being that how powerful a piece of equipment it is important because that relates to the speed, right? So
Yeah,
whether it's a bike or a scooter, if it falls within that class 1 or class 2, do we really care what design it is? I mean, I don't know. But I would put that out there to the committees. Andrea?
Yeah, Andrea's on there. And
We're approving a pilot program, right?
That's correct.
So why wouldn't we allow the scooters, find out if they're a problem, and if they are, then we eliminate them in the end result?
And I see that Supervisor Driscoll has to go. He's on criminal justice and public safety. I just want to see, this committee is myself, Dickinson, Driscoll, McDivitt, who's here right now, I believe. Is there any further discussion from our committee? Otherwise, I'll call the question. One thing I did want to mention is there is a biking group in Glens Falls. They should be included as well, Kevin, for maybe for volunteers. And I do think there should be some signage and some clear rules that we actually put up somewhere, maybe not signs everywhere, but just rules of the road, courtesy things that we're going to try to get everyone to abide by. All right, I will call the question. I don't see any other hands for our committee. All those in favor of the pilot, including the e-bikes and the e-scooters up to class 2, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Everyone opposed? I do need 4 votes, I think. Do I still have Dickinson? Yes.
Are you sure I'm on your committee?
Yes.
Yes,
Clark?
I'm looking at the list. Yep.
Have I been coming?
Me, Driscoll, Dickinson, and McDivitt.
That's
Oh,
an aye.
McDivitt, you're on my committee too.
Yes.
And you're an aye or not? Just let me know.
I think I'm going to reverse myself at this point and vote no.
All right, so that does not pass it. I have 3-1. If Amanda has me incorrect, just let me know.
Nope, that's correct. You need 4 votes in favor in order for it to pass. You only have 3, so it fails your committee.
Okay,
All
I'll
right.
turn that back over to you, Supervisor Conover.
Good. Relative to Public Works Committee, I assume that just so the committees, if we approve it, the resolution would come out of just Public Works to the board.
That's correct.
All right, we're ready for the question then out of Public Works. All right then, all those in favor of the pilot project signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 1 opposed, John Stroud. I believe that was a majority. The motion passes. Any further discussion to come before Public Works and based on this agenda? There being none, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Mr. Dickinson to adjourn, Mr. Merlino on the second. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Claudia?
Thank you. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move it.
Thank you. A second.
I'll second it.
I'll move that. Any discussion on our motion to adjourn? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thank you.